There comes a moment in every life when the soul begins to whisper louder than the noise of the world. A moment when you can no longer pretend that the heaviness you carry is anything other than your own resistance to peace. This moment is sacred. It is not an end, but a beginning. It is the quiet threshold between who you've been and who you truly are. And if you are listening now, not just with your ears, but with your spirit, you already know. You are not here by accident. The message you are about to receive is not new. It is not foreign to you. It is the echo of something ancient, something eternal that lives within you, something that has been calling to you softly, patiently, through the silence, through the sleepless nights, through the pain that you thought you had to carry forever. But here is the truth, simple and liberating. You are not your suffering. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are the awareness behind it, all the quiet observer, the divine presence who has simply forgotten its own infinite freedom. The suffering was never your identity. It was only a costume worn in the theater of experience. You mistook the role for the soul. And like an actor who forgets the script is temporary, you started to believe the pain was permanent. But now, it is time to remember suffering is not your punishment. It is your teacher. But like all good teachers, once the lesson is learned, it no longer needs to stay. So why do we hold on to it? Why do we cradle our pain like a sacred relic, passing it down from thought to thought, moment to moment, as if it defines who we are? Because we've become addicted to it. Not consciously, of course, but subtly, spiritually, emotionally. The addiction is not to the pain itself, but to the identity it gives us, the story it tells, the attention it draws, the certainty it offers in an uncertain world. Pain, you see, is familiar. And what is familiar often feels safer than the unknown, even if it hurts. We say we want peace. We say we want healing. But deep down, we fear what would happen if we truly let go of what has defined us for so long. Who would I be without my story of betrayal, of abandonment, of failure, of loss? You would be free. That is who. You would be whole. You would be infinite awareness unchained from form. You would be who you were before the world told you who you should be. But the ego resists this. The ego thrives on separation, on identity, on survival, through struggle. It whispers, if you let go of this pain, who will protect you? It says your suffering is justified. It means you were wronged. It means you matter. But what the ego offers is not protection, it is imprisonment. And you, my dear friend, were not born for a life sentence. You were born for liberation. Freedom does not begin outside of you. It begins in the invisible, in the subtle, sacred space between your thoughts. It begins when you say, I no longer need to suffer to feel alive. You are allowed to feel peace. You are allowed to be healed. You are allowed to live joyfully without guilt, even if others around you are still in pain. Your healing does not betray the past. It transcends it. Every time you return to a painful memory and choose to relive it, you're not honoring the wound, you're reinforcing the illusion that it still has power. But your mind is not a museum of grief. It is a canvas for creation. And suffering cannot exist in a mind that refuses to feed it. You are not responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for what you continue to carry. Let that land in your soul. You are responsible for what you continue to carry. You do not need permission from the past to be free in the present. Freedom is not earned. It is remembered. It is reclaimed. It is what remains when the illusions fall away. And those illusions, the stories of I am not enough, I was broken, I was abandoned, I was hurt, I am unworthy, they are just clouds. You are the sky. The clouds come and go, but the sky is eternal, untouched, unshaken, unstained. You cannot fight suffering with suffering. You cannot overcome darkness by becoming it. You overcome it by returning to the light within you. And that light, your true essence, does not know suffering. It watches it, it witnesses it, it learns from it, and then it lets it go. You are that light. You are that witness. You are that sky. So why do we suffer? Because we resist what is. Because we want things to be different than they are. Because we believe life should have unfolded in another way. But the should is the cause of the pain, not the event itself. The should says this should not have happened. The should says they should not have left. The should says I should not have failed. But what is simply is, and no amount of mental protest will ever rewrite the past. It can only prolong the illusion that your freedom is on hold. It is not on hold. It is here. Now, in this breath, in this stillness, can you feel it? There is no suffering in this moment unless you bring it here. The past is not real unless you resurrect it. The pain is not alive unless you breathe your thoughts into it. There is only now. There is only the awareness that hears these words. That awareness is untouched by time, it is eternal, and in it there is no addiction, no story, no suffering, just being. You have carried the weight long enough. You have fought yourself long enough. You have rehearsed the grief, replayed the betrayal, and recited the heartbreak long enough. And now I invite you to rest. Not to give up, but to surrender. To surrender the false belief that you ever needed to suffer to be worthy. To surrender the lie that your pain is what makes you real. You are real without it. You are enough without it. You are divine, with or without a story. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It is saying, I will no longer allow what happened to define me. It is cutting the cord between your soul and the past, not because the past deserves it, but because your soul does. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is the decision to no longer let pain be your teacher, your companion, your shadow. Your new teacher is love. Your new companion is peace. Your new shadow is light. You are not here to prove your pain. You are here to express your freedom. You are not here to relive old wounds. You are here to awaken to your infinite self. And that self, it is waiting patiently beneath the rubble of your resistance. It has not been broken, only buried. Beneath every tear, every memory, every loss, it has remained untouched. Like a diamond beneath the soil, it is still there, radiant, whole, complete, waiting to be uncovered. This is the great return, not to a past self, but to the self that existed before you were taught to suffer, before you were taught to doubt, before you were taught to earn love. That self is your truth. And it is calling you now, not in words, but in knowing, in intuition, in the silence beneath your thoughts, in the stillness behind your eyes. Are you listening? Because if you are truly listening, then the addiction is already loosening. The identity is already dissolving, and in its place, something sacred is emerging. Freedom. Not the freedom the world gives you when things go your way, but the freedom that was never lost. The freedom that is your birthright. The freedom that is your nature. This is only the beginning. When you begin to awaken to the realization that your suffering is not required for your growth, you start to unhook yourself from the spiritual lie that pain equals progress. Yes, pain may come, but it is not the source of your power. Your awareness is. And once you stop identifying with the suffering, the pain loses its grip. The fire may still burn around you, but you will know you are not the flame. You are the one watching. This realization is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is not lightning and thunder. It is a quiet recognition, like the sun slowly rising behind a foggy mountain. The mountain does not move, but suddenly it is lit from within. That is what awakening feels like. It is not a forceful act. It is the gentle, divine invitation to remember that what you have been seeking has always lived inside you. You do not heal by fighting, you heal by allowing. You do not free yourself by resisting. You free yourself by accepting. Acceptance is not approval. Acceptance is clarity. It is seeing the present moment without adding the weight of the past to it. When you stop insisting that life be something other than it is, you unlock the door to the peace that was already in the room. Peace doesn't arrive when the world behaves. It arrives when you return to yourself, when you stop running from the now. You see, your suffering is often not about what's happening, but about what you're thinking about what's happening. The thought says, this shouldn't be. But what if it should? Not because you deserved it, but because it arrived as your curriculum. Your soul signed up for a classroom that the mind does not always understand, and in that misunderstanding, we reach for judgment. We reach for control. We reach for fear. And yet the soul only ever reaches for one thing: awakening. You are not here to control everything. You are here to respond to everything with love. Every experience you've had, the betrayals, the illnesses, the losses, the heartbreak, has been a sacred messenger, not a punishment. You are not cursed. You are being called inward, called home, called into the deeper layers of your being that only pain could expose. But once exposed, those layers must be healed, not by continuing to scratch at the wound, but by ceasing to identify with it. Healing begins when you stop telling the story from the voice of the victim and start remembering that you are always the observer, the awareness, the consciousness, the one who experienced the pain but was never the pain itself. You do not need to earn the right to feel whole. You already are. You do not need to prove your pain to receive love. You are already loved infinitely, eternally, unconditionally by the source that breathed you into being. That source does not see you as broken. It sees you as becoming. Not becoming someone else, but unbecoming everything you are not. And in that sacred stripping away, what remains is your essence. That essence cannot suffer. It is beyond form, beyond name, beyond history. You cannot touch it with your hands, but you can touch it with your stillness. You can meet it in the silence between breaths. You can feel it in the calm between your thoughts. You can hear it whispering in the spaces where the world goes quiet. That is who you are. Not the roles you played, not the failures you feared, not the identity the world has projected onto you. You are the one behind the roles, behind the masks, behind the defenses. You are divine awareness, choosing to have a human experience, and part of that experience includes pain, but not the addiction to it. That part is learned. And what has been learned can be unlearned. It begins with intention, with a willingness to release the familiar discomfort of suffering in exchange for the unfamiliar peace of your true self. It begins with asking, what if I no longer believed I had to suffer to be loved? It begins with challenging the beliefs that say, I am only worthy if I endure, or pain is the proof that I am growing. No, presence is the proof, awareness is the proof, joy is the proof. Joy does not mean you have forgotten the pain. It means the pain no longer defines your frequency. You are allowed to choose a new vibration. You are allowed to feel good. You are allowed to be at peace, even if the world around you is in chaos. Your serenity is not selfish, it is sacred. Your healing is not a betrayal of the past, it is a declaration of your power. You were not sent here to stay in the dark, you were sent here to become the light. And the light you are does not demand anything. It simply shines. Not because it wants recognition, not because it needs approval, but because shining is what it was made to do. So let yourself shine again. Even if your past tells you it's too late. Even if your ego says you're not ready. Even if the world says you should stay small. You were not born to stay small. You were born to expand. You were not born to stay wounded. You were born to evolve. And the addiction to suffering, that is the final illusion. The one that says, if I let go of this, I will have nothing. But in truth, if you let go of it, you will have everything. Because behind the suffering is your essence. Behind the story is your silence. Behind the identity is your truth. And your truth is not broken. It is not ashamed. It is not angry. It is not lost. Your truth is whole. Your truth is eternal. Your truth is divine. You are not here to convince anyone of your pain. You are here to demonstrate your freedom. And freedom is not loud. It does not scream. It does not argue. It simply is. So stop rehearsing the pain. Stop replaying the past. Stop feeding the addiction with the attention it no longer deserves. The pain has already been felt. The lesson has already been received. The wisdom is already within you. Now is the time to let go. Not because the past is forgiven, not because the pain was okay, but because you are no longer willing to suffer unnecessarily. This is spiritual maturity. To choose peace even when pain feels more familiar. To choose presence even when the mind demands more suffering. To choose now this moment as your liberation, because your soul has always known suffering was never the goal. Awakening was. And awakening is not found in the mind. It is found in the letting go. Let go. Let go of what hurt you. Let go of what betrayed you. Let go of what you could not change. Let go of the belief that your worth is measured by how long you've carried the pain. You do not need to carry it anymore. You are allowed to set it down. And in its place, you will find something sacred. Not something new, something ancient, something eternal. Something that has always been waiting patiently behind the veil of your struggle. You will find yourself not the self shaped by trauma, not the self shaped by society, but the self that was born before the pain ever began. You are that self. You are that light. You are that peace. Now return to it. Remember it. Reclaim it. This is your healing. This is your homecoming. This is your freedom. And it begins now. If the voice within you is whispering, but I don't know how to let go, let me tell you this. You don't need to know how. You only need to be willing. The path appears when the resistance disappears. Letting go is not a technique. It's a choice. A decision made moment by moment, breath by breath. A decision to stop feeding what no longer nourishes your soul. You let go not by force, but by allowing. You let go when you stop trying to control how healing looks. You let go when you stop trying to understand every detail of the past and simply say, it happened, and now I choose peace. This does not mean you don't care. It means you care enough to stop hurting yourself with what's already over. You've cried the tears, you've felt the weight, and now your soul says, there is more than this. And there is joy beyond your sadness. There is clarity beyond your confusion. There is light beyond your pain. There is freedom beyond your identity. But to reach it, you must unclench your hands. You must be willing to release what you have carried like a badge of honor. Yes, it protected you. Yes, it made sense. Yes, it once served a purpose. But no more. What once protected you may now be what is keeping you stuck. The old defense mechanisms have become prisons. The old beliefs have become walls, and now is the time to tear them down. But you do not need to tear them down with violence or anger. You simply stop feeding them. You withdraw your belief. You say, thank you for serving me, but I no longer need you. And in that moment of inner maturity, your freedom begins to return. It was never gone. It was simply waiting beyond the illusion, beyond the drama, beyond the voice of the ego, waiting for your willingness. You see, suffering survives on attention. It needs your mind to keep it alive. It needs your identity to give it shape. But When you become still, truly still, you can feel something deeper than suffering. You feel presence, not the kind that requires proof, not the kind that needs explanation, but the kind that simply is. That presence is who you are beyond thought. It is awareness untouched by pain, and it is always here. You may have forgotten it, but it never forgot you. It does not need you to be perfect. It does not ask you to fix yourself. It only invites you to come home, home to yourself, home to the divine essence that needs no justification, no resume of pain, no history of endurance to prove its worth. And once you return, once you begin living from the place of present, suffering becomes optional. Did you hear that? Suffering is not mandatory. It is optional. Pain may be part of the journey, but suffering is a choice. And when you finally accept that, you no longer argue for your limitations. You no longer defend your wounds. You no longer tell stories that reinforce your bondage. You begin to speak a new language, the language of liberation. And liberation sounds like this. I choose to no longer identify with my story. I choose to stop reliving the trauma. I choose peace not because the past changed, but because I did. And in those declarations, your entire vibration changes. The universe begins to respond differently. People treat you differently. Opportunities open where once there were walls, because your outer world is a mirror. It does not reflect what you want. It reflects who you are being. So be someone who is free. Not perfect, not invulnerable, not unfeeling, but free to feel without attachment, free to remember without reliving, free to stand in your worth without needing suffering as a crutch. The world does not need more people proving how much they've endured. The world needs more people who are willing to be free, even when it's easier to stay stuck. The world needs people like you, people who dare to heal not only for themselves, but for everyone they touch. Because when you heal, you break the chain. You stop the cycle. You become the permission slip for others to release their own pain. And that is the quiet revolution. Not one fought with noise, but with inner stillness. Not one declared with force, but with softness. Not one built on resistance, but on surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. Giving over the struggle to the presence that knows how to carry you when your legs are tired, when your heart is heavy, when your mind is loud. That presence is God. Source, Spirit, the Tao. Call it what you will. It lives within you. It breathes you. It animates your being. And it wants you free. It wants you joyful. It wants you unbound. It did not create you to suffer endlessly. It created you to awaken. So now you are at the sacred crossroads. The ego will offer you more pain, more identity, more drama. But the soul offers peace, spaciousness, love. One path you know well, the other asks for your trust. Which will you choose? Will you keep feeding the cycle or will you break it? Will you keep rehearsing the past or will you dissolve it in the fire of now? The choice is yours. Always has been. And the moment you decide, truly decide, the entire universe will shift to meet you there. Because the soul is not interested in delay. The soul does not procrastinate its own return. It longs not for more suffering, but for the sweetness of freedom. And once you taste it, you will wonder why you ever waited so long. Because freedom does not feel like escape. It feels like arrival, like exhale, like silence, like the moment you realize, I am okay. I am more than okay. I am free. Not because everything outside is perfect, but because everything inside is true. And truth is the end of suffering. You have walked through storms. You have wandered in deserts. You have stared at ceilings in the dark, begging the heavens for answers. You have known the weight of memories that refuse to fade, the ache of unanswered questions, the torment of what could have been. But through it all, you remained. You breathed through pain you thought would break you. You carried burdens no one saw. You sat in silence while the noise of your mind raged on. And now, at the edge of that long road, you stand face to face with a deeper truth. The pain was real, but it was never the truth of you. It was never your essence. It was never your name. You are not your trauma. You are not your heartbreak. You are not your scars. You are what remains when all of that is stripped away. You are the stillness behind the storm, the light behind the shadow, the peace behind the personality. And you are awakening not by trying harder, but by surrendering deeper. Surrender is the most courageous act the soul can make, not because it is weak, but because it is wise. It says, I no longer need to carry what life never asked me to carry. It says, I release my grip on the past so I may hold the present. It says, I trust in the unseen more than I trust in my fear. And in surrender, suffering begins to dissolve. The ego will tell you that surrender is dangerous, that if you let go, you'll be hurt again, that if you stop identifying with the pain, you'll become vulnerable. But listen closely, that voice is the voice of the very addiction you're here to release. It wants control. It feeds on fear. It survives by convincing you that healing is unsafe. But healing is your birthright. It is not the exception to life, it is the essence of life. Just as your body regenerates its cells, your soul regenerates its awareness. Every time you choose love over fear, stillness over noise, truth over identity, you heal. Not because of effort, but because of alignment. And in that alignment, there is no more need to suffer. You were not created to prove how much you can endure. You were created to reflect the presence of God through your being. God is not glorified by your misery. God is glorified by your awakening, by your peace, by your return to wholeness. And wholeness does not require you to fix what happened. It asks only that you stop identifying with it. You are not the events that shaped you. You are the awareness that watched them happen. You are the formless presence within the form. You are the timeless soul having a temporary experience. What does this mean? It means that every identity built from pain, I was abandoned, I was betrayed, I was broken, is just a story. And stories, while powerful, are not permanent. They are interpretations, not truth. They are the lens, not the light. You are the light, and when you awaken to this light, the story begins to soften. You begin to say things like, that happened, but it is no longer happening. That was real, but it is no longer who I am. I don't need to rebleed every time I remember. I can remember and still be free. This is healing. It is not forgetting, it is reframing. It is not denial, it is liberation. It is not spiritual bypass, it is spiritual maturity. You are no longer a child in the garden of pain. You are the gardener now. You are the one who decides what grows. You are the one who decides which seeds to water, fear or love, pain or peace, story or presence. Choose wisely. Your energy is your vote. And remember, the world may still try to remind you of who you were, but the world is slow to catch up to who you are becoming. You do not need anyone else's permission to be free. Freedom is not a consensus. It is a personal awakening. It is the soul's declaration. I no longer belong to the prison of my past. And when that declaration is made, your vibration shifts. People begin to say you feel different. They don't know what changed, but you do. What changed is that you stopped needing to suffer to feel real. What changed is that you stopped needing your wounds to feel worthy. What changed is that you returned to your natural state wholeness. And wholeness is not dramatic, It is not loud. It is not theatrical. Wholeness is gentle. It is steady. It is a quiet, sacred yes to this moment, exactly as it is. And in that yes, suffering melts. Addictions weaken. Stories fade. You return not to the version of you before the pain, but to the version of you untouched by it. The soul version, the divine blueprint, the you that existed before time had a name. That is your truth. And nothing the world can do will ever take it away. So take a breath now. A slow, conscious breath. Inhale not just air, inhale presence, inhale wholeness, inhale the remembrance of your divine nature, and exhale the story. Exhale the justification. Exhale the resistance. Let it go. Again, and again, and again, because freedom is not a one-time decision. It is a practice. It is a path. It is a way of living. And the more you choose it, the more natural it becomes. The addiction fades, not because you fight it, but because you stop feeding it. And one day, a day that is closer than you think, you will wake up and no longer recognize the person who once needed suffering to feel alive. You will see them with compassion, but no longer with attachment. You will bless their journey and thank their endurance, and then you will walk forward lighter than ever, finally home in yourself. And in that moment, you will smile. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with it. You are free. Free not just from pain, but from the need to suffer. Free not just from memory, but from the identity built from it. Free not just from the world's expectations, but from your own inner prison. Free to love, free to breathe, free to be. This is your time. This is your return. This is your liberation. And no one can take it from you, because it was never outside of you to begin with. It was always here, waiting. And now that you've remembered it, is yours forever. You are free. You are whole. You are healed. You are home. There's a river that runs through you, not a river of water, but of energy, of spirit, eternal, quiet, and profoundly alive. You were born into this stream, not to grasp at the banks, not to cling to the rocks, but to flow effortlessly with the current of life. And yet, so many of us have forgotten. We hold on. We resist. We clutch stories and identities and pains like anchors tied to our ankles. We cling to the past, to expectations, to control, to what they said or didn't say, did or didn't do. We tighten our fists around things that are already floating downstream, believing that somehow in our clenching, we are safe. But the soul doesn't cling. The soul flows. The ego clings, that manufactured identity born of comparison and separation. It clings because it fears dissolving. It clings because it believes in lack. It clings because it has been conditioned to survive by controlling, by proving, by protecting a fragile sense of self built entirely on illusion. But the soul knows it cannot be harmed. The soul knows it was never lacking. The soul knows it doesn't need to become anything because it already is everything. It simply flows like wind through trees, like breath in the lungs, like love that does not demand anything in return. When you wake up to this truth, not as a concept, but as a felt reality, you begin to see how much energy has been wasted in holding on to what hurt you, holding on to who hurt you, holding on to who you used to be or who you think you need to become. It is all weight. It is all unnecessary. It is all the ego's attempt to control what the soul already understands, that everything is impermanent, and that impermanence is not the enemy, but the gateway to liberation. You do not need to carry what no longer serves you, not because it is wrong, not because it is bad, but because it is heavy. You were not made for heaviness. You were not made for tightness. You were not made to grasp. You were made to expand, to evolve, to become soft and supple and surrendered to the mysterious rhythm of life. You were made to flow. And flowing is not weakness. It is not passive. It is the most powerful act of trust. It is the choice to no longer resist, the current of your own evolution. It is the courage to let go of the known and surrender to the vastness of the unknown. It is the decision to stop trying to control outcomes and start honoring alignment. It is the daily sacred practice of asking, where is life trying to take me, and am I willing to go? So ask yourself now, what are you clinging to? What story? What identity? What memory? What resentment? What version of yourself have you outgrown, but are still performing because it's familiar? And what would it feel like just for a moment to loosen your grip, to unclench your mental fists and allow life to move through you, not around you? Because here's the truth. When you release the need to control, you become available to grace. When you let go, you don't fall, you rise. You rise into the higher frequency of your own being. You rise into the flow state of the soul. You rise into a rhythm that is not frantic or forceful, but deeply peaceful, deeply wise, deeply loving. There is a quiet confidence in those who flow. They do not need to prove, they do not need to rush, they are not seduced by urgency or pressure. They move from presence. They listen to the whispers beneath the noise, they trust the signs. They walk away when it's time. They stay when it's true. They live not by force, but by alignment. You were never meant to swim against the current of your own truth. And what is your truth? That you are not the stories you've been telling yourself. You are not your wounds. You are not your resume or your failures or your reputation. You are not the name they gave you or the roles you were assigned. You are something far more eternal. A soul here for a fleeting moment, learning to remember who you are. And in remembering, you heal. You heal not by adding more to yourself, but by releasing what is not you. You don't become whole by accumulation. You become whole by subtraction. Letting go of the fear, letting go of the shame, letting go of the need for validation, letting go of the timelines, letting go of the weight. You don't need it anymore. You never did. Flowing means saying yes to your own becoming. It means no longer holding yourself hostage to a version of you that was necessary for survival but is no longer aligned with who you're becoming. It means trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to shrink, to strive, or to betray your own peace. Flowing means releasing the people who cannot meet you where you're going, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with deep gratitude for what they showed you and a quiet bow as you both continue your separate ways. Flowing means grieving what has ended, but not dragging the corpse with you. Flowing means allowing the space in your life to be empty for a while, not rushing to fill it with noise, distraction, or new attachments, but trusting that the empty space is sacred, that the void is the womb of your next becoming, that silence is not absence, but presence preparing you for more. So often we say we want peace, but we are unwilling to release the chaos. We say we want to be free, but we are addicted to our chains. We say we want to flow, but we grip the riverbanks with white knuckles. The soul waits patiently, never pushing, never punishing, just whispering gently, let go, let it flow, I know the way. And when you finally listen, when you finally soften, when you finally surrender, everything changes. Not because the world has changed, but because your inner world is no longer resisting the current of life. You stop trying to swim upstream. You stop arguing with reality. You stop fighting your own expansion. And in that stillness, in that surrender, you remember you were always the river. You were always the flow. You were never the rock. There is a sacred intelligence flowing through all of life, an unspoken harmony that arranges galaxies and opens flowers, that carries the tide and breathes your lungs without needing permission. That same force flows through you. It's not something you must earn. It's not something that depends on your achievements or your past. It is your nature. The soul is not something you possess, it is what you are. And the soul knows how to flow because it is not bound by ego. It does not confuse stillness with stagnation. It does not mistake letting go for losing. It sees the truth clearly. that everything you're afraid of losing was never truly yours, only borrowed for a time, a teacher in disguise, a season in the symphony of your evolution. The ego builds walls, but the soul opens windows. The ego fears death, but the soul knows only transformation. The ego asks, what will they think? The soul asks, what is true for me? And you must decide, moment by moment, breath by breath, whose voice you will follow. Do you want a life that clings or a life that flows? Clinging says, I am not enough, so I must hold on to this person, this job, this image, this pain, or I will disappear. Flowing says, I'm already whole, so I trust that what leaves is no longer aligned and what comes is already mine in spirit. One is fear masquerading as love. The other is love, pure and unshaken by circumstance. Let this moment be the moment you come back to yourself, back to the still, wise, unshakable presence beneath the noise of your mind, back to the space where you don't need to prove anything, where you don't need to fix yourself, where you don't need to get somewhere else. Back to the simple, sacred truth. You are already held. You are already guided. You are already flowing when you stop trying to be the river and allow yourself to become the water. You cannot flow while clinging, and you cannot cling while flowing. The soul invites you into a different kind of power, not the kind that forces outcomes or dominates others, but the kind that rises from radical trust. Trust that what is falling away is making space. Trust that what didn't work was never meant to last. Trust that the timing is perfect, even when it makes no sense to the mind. Trust that something ancient and eternal is always on your side, even when life feels like unraveling. Especially then, there is beauty in the unraveling. There is grace in the undoing. There is peace in the pause between chapters. And when you stop resisting that space, when you stop trying to rush through the uncomfortable unknown, you will feel something holy begin to open. The weight will lift. The breath will deepen. The tears will soften into prayers. The fight will dissolve into presence. And presence, my friend, is the doorway to the soul. When you are fully here, not regretting the past or rehearsing the future, you remember the only thing that has ever been real, this moment, this breath, this now. And in that now, the need to cling dissolves. Because you see, there is nothing to cling to. There is only this infinite moment of becoming. This is the invitation. This is the path. This is the liberation. To trust your flow more than you trust your fear. Your pain has shaped you, but it does not define you. Your story is sacred, but it is not your prison. You are not bound to what once broke you. You are not required to relive what you've already outgrown. You can thank the past for its lessons and then let it go. Not because you're denying it, but because you're no longer choosing to suffer under its weight. The past is not your home. The soul lives forward. You are not meant to stay where your spirit has already left. You are not meant to dwell in spaces that no longer resonate. You are not meant to repeat patterns that keep you small. You are not meant to make yourself digestible to those who cannot taste the truth of your being. You are not meant to betray your own peace for the comfort of others. You are meant to flow. And to flow, you must trust that letting go is not the end, it is the beginning. The soul doesn't cling to roles, titles, outcomes, or attachments. It doesn't demand proof. It simply flows faithfully, naturally, freely with the source from which it came. You are that source in form. You are that eternal presence expressing itself in a human lifetime. You are not separate from the divine. You are a unique, unrepeatable current in the ocean of God. And when you stop resisting that current, you return home to your deepest truth. I am not this fear. I am not this grasping. I am not this control. I am the one who watches it all come and go, untouched and unafraid. Flowing is not about giving up. It is about giving in. Not to weakness, but to wisdom. Not to chaos, but to the deeper order. Not to apathy, but to alignment. It is the realization that the more tightly you hold on, the more you suffer. And the more you surrender, the more you see life was never working against you. It was always working for your awakening. So breathe, soften, listen, let go of your agenda for a moment and ask the deeper question, what is life trying to show me? Where is it trying to lead me? What truth have I been avoiding? And what would happen if I simply said yes? This is not the path of the world. It is the path of the soul. It is slower, deeper, quieter, but it is also more powerful. It doesn't rush to fix. It doesn't cling to old maps. It doesn't need guarantees. It simply flows because it trusts. And as you begin to live from this place, your life changes. Not always in visible ways, but in foundational ways. You feel lighter, you react less, you forgive more easily, you stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand. You find peace in solitude. You let love find you instead of chasing it. You speak your truth, not to convince, but because it's who you are. You live not from fear, but from freedom. And this is the deepest freedom, not the freedom to control everything, but the freedom from the need to let that be enough for now. Let it be enough to breathe. Let it be enough to not know what's next, but to trust that something sacred is unfolding. Let it be enough to release what you were never meant to carry. Let it be enough to simply return to the flow again and again, as many times as you need. You are not late, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are not too much or not enough. You are exactly where your soul needs you to be learning, shedding, remembering, returning. Because you've never truly left. You've only been distracted, you've only been afraid. You've only been trying to manage a river that was always here to carry you. But now you remember. Now you feel it rising in you. The call to flow, the whisper to let go, the sacred courage to stop clinging and start living fully, freely, fearlessly. Flowing is a remembrance, not a destination. You don't become worthy of it, you return to it. It's what you were before they told you who to be, before the world wrapped its labels around your light. Before you learn to perform for approval or to hide your wounds beneath a polished smile, the flow was always there beneath the striving, beneath the shame, beneath the noise. It's the you that exists when there's nothing to prove, nothing to defend, nothing to cling to, just presence, just love, just the gentle, patient rhythm of your soul moving in time with the infinite. When you stop trying to carry the weight of your entire life on your shoulders, something holy happens. You begin to feel the hands of the divine beneath you, invisible, steady, holding you even when you can't see them. You stop gripping so tightly to outcomes, and you start trusting in the unfolding. You stop trying to make people stay, and you start honoring the way love expands when it's not possessed. You stop controlling the narrative, and you start living the truth. This is not complacency. This is not apathy. This is not spiritual bypassing. This is the deepest courage there is, to trust your inner knowing more than external noise, to walk away when it dishonors your soul, to release what you've outgrown, even when your hands shake, to say yes to the quiet, sacred, unglamorous process of healing without needing applause, to no longer make decisions from fear, but from the freedom of your spirit. You are not here to be weighed down by old stories. You are not here to live in someone else's version of who you should be. You are not here to repeat ancestral patterns of suffering because you think pain is noble. You are here to break the cycle, to breathe a new breath, to say, it ends with me, not in anger, not in pride, but in clarity, in peace, in love. You are here to choose differently. And every moment offers that choice to cling or to flow, to resist or to surrender, to live from fear or from freedom. Some days you will forget. That's okay. Some days the grip will tighten again around your expectations, your history, your identity. But each time, the soul will gently remind you, you don't need to hold on. You are held. You don't need to carry it. You are carried. Letting go is not an event, it is a practice, a returning, a loosening, a remembering that the more you allow, the more you align, the more you trust, the more you transform. The more you flow, the more you heal, not by fixing anything, but by finally realizing that nothing essential was ever broken. You are not here to become someone else. You are here to unbecome everything that was never really you. Peel it back. The guilt, the people-pleasing, the perfectionism, the pressure to perform, the need to be understood by everyone, the urge to keep proving your worth. Let it all drop away. Strip yourself of everything that doesn't feel like truth. Watch how light you become when you stop dragging what you were never meant to carry. This is the miracle of flowing. It clears the space for the real you to emerge. Not the wounded self, not the performing self, not the pleasing self, the soul self, the one who trusts timing, the one who lives in presence, the one who doesn't argue with reality, the one who breathes deeply and walks lightly because they've realized that nothing real can be lost and nothing unreal is worth holding on to. And so the healing continues. It deepens. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or grand revelations. Sometimes it's a quiet shift, the moment you don't react to the old trigger, the moment you choose silence over defending yourself, the moment you let someone go without needing closure. That's healing. That's flow. And you begin to realize that you are no longer in a rush. You are no longer desperate for answers. You are no longer searching for validation in eyes that do not know how to see you. You are no longer willing to abandon yourself for love. You are no longer willing to distort your truth just to be accepted. You flow now. You honor the rhythm of your own soul. You listen, not to the fear in your head, but to the knowing in your heart. You allow others to think what they think. You allow life to unfold in its own timing. You allow the unknown to be not a threat, but a temple. You are becoming free, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Because you no longer seek to control what cannot be controlled. Because you no longer fear the silence. Because you no longer need to carry every burden alone. Because you have remembered the sacred truth. The soul doesn't cling, it flows. And in that flowing, you begin to see others differently too. You stop demanding that they stay the same. You stop needing them to complete you. You stop blaming them for your wounds. You stop trying to convince, convert, or change them. You begin to love in a new way, not from need, but from overflow. Not from fear, but from freedom. Not to fill a hole, but to share your wholeness. You forgive, not to let them off the hook, but to unhook yourself from the chain of suffering. You release, not because you don't care, but because you've decided to care for your peace more than your pride. You walk away when needed, not in anger, but in truth. You stay when aligned, not out of fear, but out of love. This is the work of the soul. Not to fight, but to flow. Not to conquer, but to remember. Not to cling, but to let the river carry you home. And the more you do this, the more you will find that what is meant for you doesn't require effort to hold. It fits, it resonates, it flows with you. The people, the opportunities, the visions, they feel light, they feel aligned, they feel like truth. And those that don't, you bless them and release them. No resistance, no resentment, just clarity, just grace. You are not here to suffer. You are not here to earn love. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to embody your soul. And the soul is not in a hurry. It is not in panic. It is not at war. It is water. It is wind. It is light. And it knows the way. Every moment you let go, something within you softens. The heart opens. The breath deepens. You begin to feel again not the sharpness of suffering, but the quiet pulse of aliveness. And in that aliveness, you meet yourself. Not the idea of you, not the projection, but the real you, the ancient you, the unshakable you. The one who has walked through fire and still chooses grace. The one who has lost so much and yet still sings. The one who has broken, bent, wept, crawled, and yet never forgot the truth, no matter how dim it became in the noise of the world. And the truth is this: you are not your trauma. You are not your past. You are not your wounds. You are the presence that witnessed it all. You are the light that survived. You are the consciousness that continues to rise. Your soul doesn't cling to pain because your soul knows pain is not your identity. Your soul doesn't cling to success because your soul knows success is not your worth. Your soul doesn't cling to certainty because your soul knows that life is never meant to be figured out. It's meant to be felt, danced, lived, flowed with. You begin to understand, not just mentally, but with your whole being. Resistance is the only thing that hurts. Not the event, not the loss, not the ending, the resistance to it, the refusal to let it move through you. The clinging to the idea that it should have been different. The obsession with rewriting the past in your mind. The ego screams, it wasn't supposed to be this way. But the soul whispers, it was. It had to be. Not as punishment, as preparation. Preparation for what? For this sacred moment of awakening, this sacred return to yourself, this sacred choice to no longer live in bondage to the past, this sacred breath of surrender, this sacred decision to let life love you without needing you to control it. You see, now peace is not found in fixing. It is found in flowing. It is not found in having all the answers. It is found in becoming the space where the answers can land. And that space is still. That space is soft. That space is unclenched, unarmored, unafraid. So many of us carry invisible armor. We tighten around life, bracing for impact. We anticipate rejection. We rehearse abandonment. We prepare for loss. We protect ourselves from the very experiences that would set us free. But freedom never comes through defense. Freedom comes through openness, through willingness, through flow. Drop the armor now. It is not needed here. You are safe to be soft. You are safe to be open. You are safe to let go. And yes, your mind will tell you that to flow is to risk everything, that if you surrender, you'll fall apart. But the soul knows what falls apart is only what was never true to begin with. Let the false self unravel. Let the story dissolve. Let the illusion burn. You are not here to live a tightly controlled life. You are here to live a truthful life. And truth has no need for clinging. You don't have to force what's meant for you. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to hold on to love with a white knuckle grip. Love that is real doesn't need to be caged. It flows to you freely as an echo of your own alignment. This is the shift. This is the healing. This is the moment you become new, not by becoming someone else, but by shedding the untrue. And the world around you begins to mirror this. You attract with ease what you used to chase. You release what no longer resonates without fear. You speak your truth with clarity and softness. You stop asking, will they accept me? And start asking, am I accepting myself? Because the soul doesn't seek approval. It lives in integrity. And that integrity is not perfection. It's not a curated image. It's the quiet knowing that you are who you say you are, even when no one is watching. It's the soft power of being at home in your own spirit. It's the lightness of not needing to cling to masks. You are returning to that now, and in your return, you heal. You heal generations of suppression. You heal lifetimes of clinging. You heal the fractured relationship between your mind and your essence. Because flowing is not just personal, it is sacred. It is ancestral. It is collective. When you choose to flow, you liberate others. When you let go, you give others permission to do the same. When you live in presence, you become a lighthouse for those still lost in the storm of control. You don't need to save anyone. Your light is the invitation. Your flow is the medicine. So don't be afraid of the emptiness that comes when you let go. That emptiness is not void. It is space. It is room for the real to emerge. It is the fertile ground of transformation. And in that ground, new life will grow. Not because you forced it, not because you planned it, but because you became available to it. You flowed, and now you see that nothing real is ever lost, that what was taken was only ever borrowed, that what fell away was only meant to walk you to the threshold of your deeper becoming, that every detour was a necessary redirection, that every heartbreak was a holy invitation, that every ending was really a beginning dressed in silence. You see that clinging never protected you, it only exhausted you. You see that control was a disguise for fear. You see that your safety has never been in the known, but in the truth. You see that love, real love, never requires you to abandon yourself. And so you choose again and again to flow, not perfectly, not always easily, but honestly, gently, wholeheartedly. Because flowing is not about being above pain. It's about not becoming it. It's about allowing yourself to feel fully, vulnerably, without letting that feeling become your identity. It's about meeting yourself where you are while still trusting where you're going. It's about no longer carrying yesterday's weight into tomorrow's miracle. Then let us close, softly and clearly, like the last ripple of a river disappearing into the sea. You are not here to grasp. You are not here to control the current. You are not here to rewrite the past or manipulate the future. You are here to be, to open, to breathe, to allow the mystery to move through you like a sacred wind, to become so light that nothing sticks, nothing stains, nothing steals your peace. Flowing doesn't mean nothing matters. It means you no longer suffer unnecessarily over what does. Let the world change. Let people leave. Let dreams evolve. Let chapters close. Let the self you once were dissolve into the self you're becoming. Let it all move. Let it all flow. Because the soul doesn't cling. It flows. It trusts. It breathes. It loves. And it remembers always that nothing real can ever be lost. And neither can you. You are the river. Now flow.